Hey there, absolutely gospel music fans and readers and viewers alike. We are so glad to be here today with none other than Buddy Mullins. Of course, you guys know him as a part currently of the Booth Brothers, but he's got a lot going on. He's got a lot of history in gospel music. And so we're really excited to talk with him today. Hey, Buddy, how are you doing today?
Great to be with you, Chris. I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. So,
Great. That's awesome. So for the uninitiated, Buddy, why don't you give a little bit of your history in gospel? Like I
oh,
said, it's a little bit of a storied history. So those who are just might just know you from the Booth Brothers. Tell them a little bit about where you got your start and where how you got to where you are today.
all right. Buckle up. Anyway, our family went on the road when I was 9 years old in 1978. We were in evangelism, and our family sang. My dad preached, and we did that for a number of years. And as I grew up and got into my teen years, we started doing a lot more concerts and things that, along with dad speaking. And then towards the mid to late 80s and early 90s, we started doing a lot of concerts with other groups in the gospel music field, and that moved us into doing a lot of that. And then my dad in the early 90s began working with Hope for the World missions, and I continued the group on under Mullins and Company. We were just the Mullins family. I continued the group on with Mullins and Company, and then later we changed the name to Sunday Drive. And our Sunday Drive, I know there's another group out now that's called Sunday Drive, but Sunday Drive, when we changed it to Sunday Drive, we moved into youth ministry focus and toured with Clay Cross, Jackie Velasquez. We did a couple of tours with Josh McDowell's ministry, and were the band for that for a while. And then in 2000, we discontinued Sunday Drive, and I started doing solo stuff. And for a number of years, that's what I did. I would go into churches as a soloist. And then in 2006, my wife and I teamed up with Channing Ellington and also Donnie Henderson for a short time, and Paul Lancaster back with me. And we did Everyday Driven. And that was a little bit more of a worship-based group. I mean, it was performance, but it was more of a worship style. And we kept that going till 2008. And then I went into full-time worship pastor for 8 years. And then I surrendered full-time to our family's ministry, which is mission work. As I said, my dad started in 93, and I stepped in to work with him in full-time in 2016, 15, 16. And so right in there. And that's what I did until Michael Booth called and said that Ronnie had retired and was wondering if I would come back out. And Chris, I really didn't think that that's what God wanted me to do. But through a lot of prayer and some conversations, we realized that this was the path that God wanted me to do, both for the Booth Brothers, but also for Hope for the World missions, because that's what I do. I represent Hope for the World through going into churches, sitting down into meetings with different organizations and things of that nature. We take care of all of the administration and running of the organization of Hope for the World from this side. We have 21 people on staff in the country of Albania. We work with orphans in the country of Albania. And so Carrie and I, we run that organization, but Michael Booth allows us to also share about that from the Booth Brother platform. Now, I've always used music all the way through, even though I stepped into mission work back almost 8 years ago, full time. I've always used my own music to present it. There it is. That's what I'm doing. I'm out with the Booth Brothers. I have just finished a solo project as well, and we are still doing Hope for the World missions. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and you're just like everybody else, kind of in this industry. You got your hands in a little bit of everything, right? You got to do a little bit of work everywhere, and I think that's kind of a staple in this industry. And but the whole fact that you're also getting to do mission work through it is an amazing thing to behold as well. So
Well,
that's really exciting work.
I think what it did when Michael did ask me to join the Booth Brothers, and God said green lighted that and said that would be a good thing to do. I was standing on stage one of the first nights out with the guys when God said, "Hey, you see, you surrendered your music to me 8 years ago, but I know the desires of your heart. I know the giftings that you have, and now I've brought it full circle in putting them together and be able to use them both with greater purpose."
That's awesome. That's really great. That's really great. So you just came back from a trip in Israel. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What spawned
Yeah,
that,
I'm
or
just now
how'd you get
getting
there?
over jet lag, to be honest with you. Wow. And it's amazing. As I get older, the jet lag lasts longer. But I'm doing good. We had a great trip. We lead trips to Israel usually every other year. Of course, we had to take a little break there through the COVID era, but we were back this year. We led over 58 people with us over to Israel, and it's if you've never done a trip to Israel and you're able to, I encourage you to, because it is something that is impactful personally to you, just to walk in the areas where Christ walked, to see these places and to know we already know and believe. Our faith is strong and we believe, but boy, to be able to actually see where these things took place. Another thing it does is it makes your Bible reading really come alive.
Sure.
And you can now when you read the scriptures or you hear a message, man, your mind knows right where that took place. And the amazing thing is, usually it's not like you thought. You get over there and you see and you go, oh, okay, this is how this is, you know. And but it's impactful. And that's the joy we get, is we get to take other people and get to see through their eyes every time and watch it just come alive, the Bible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you spoke a little bit about how you just finished up a solo project, and so we're going to talk about that. But of course, it would behoove me not to mention that first time I ever heard Buddy Mullins was Sunday Drive, right? So I was a big CCM fanatic back in my teenage years in the '90s. I loved Clay Cross. Clay Cross had a huge impact on me as a singer. And so, because I saw you on tour. I didn't see you, but I knew of you as on tour with him, and that's when I picked up that record.
Yeah.
Um, but then also, you had a short stint with the Gates Vocal Band, and that Testify record where you were on is I will till the day I die say that is the best Gates Vocal Band record. And so you have had an impact on me vocally as well. And so you and Jonathan Pierce were just ripping it up on that record. And so like I said, it would behoove me not to mention that. But let's talk a little bit about this record. You are a fantastic singer. I think everybody knows that. But what they don't know, I think a lot of people don't realize about you, is that you are also an excellent songwriter. And so you wrote every song on this record. And so just tell us a little bit about the record, where it came from, and how it started, and where you are with it now.
Wow. If you've been following online, and if anybody's been seeing anything, they've been seeing Hold These Walls, the song Hold These Walls, which the reason I mentioned that is that was the beginning of starting a new project. It was that experience that Carrie and I went through a hurricane in the Bahamas, that song was birthed out of that experience. And when I got back to the States, of course, people were saying, man, you really need to share that story, and you need to share, what God did in and through you and Carrie during that time. And so that's what started the process of a new project. I wasn't really intentionally going to do a new project, but when I wrote that song, and then I met with our board for Hope for the World and let them know that I'd written this song, and some of them heard it, they were like, "Buddy, this would be great, but what would even be better would be if you would just do a whole new project. You haven't had anything out in a number of years." And so, to be honest, Chris, I never intended to solely write a whole new project. I usually co-write with people. I don't consider myself, Chris. I never intended to solely write a whole new project. I usually co-write with people. I don't consider myself. I don't consider myself um, an amazing writer. I get inspiration. I don't go into many rooms like these professional writer guys, that can go and sit down in rooms and connect with other writers and just jump into a subject matter and write the song. Uh, it's never really been my way. I usually have to be inspired and know kind of where I'm headed and really it's a little bit more like a sermon for me. Every song is like something I'm wanting to say, I'm wanting to speak. It's a sermon, and so that's I started writing. I actually contacted a man here in town, Jason Webb, who's a great producer and he's a friend. And I met with him and I brought Hold These Walls to him. And then I brought a bunch of old songs that I had written through the years, and we just kind of went through the list. And it's amazing though. We chose about 10 or 12, but probably only 4 out of those 10 or 12 actually made the project. And while we started working on the album, I began to write. And it was like fresh wind and fresh fire. It just started creativity and something I wanted to say. And so a lot of the songs on this album have a whole lot to do with what we've all been through over the past few years
Yeah.
with COVID. And I just really wanted to speak directly to that, to the hopelessness of a lot of that feeling, and that there is hope and there's no need to be fearful and that we can trust.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. And I was listening to it again yesterday, and I was struck by that kind of that theme of hope, that you got in there, and it's just really great. I definitely encourage everybody to go listen to it. It's just a digital release. Am I correct in that?
Yes, I do have. I mean, if they contact me on my website, buddymullins.com, I had created pre-releases CDs, and so I have them. I don't, and I carry them out with the Booth Brothers. They sit on the table at the Booth Brother concerts, but we don't really push it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mainly an online presence. I'm working right now. I don't consider myself an amazing writer. I get inspiration. I don't go into many rooms like these professional writer guys, that can go and sit down in rooms and connect with other writers and just jump into a subject matter and write the song. It's never really been my way. I usually have to be inspired and know kind of where I'm headed and really it's a little bit more like a sermon for me. Every song is like something I'm wanting to say, I'm wanting to speak. It's a sermon, and so that's I started writing. I actually contacted a man here in town, Jason Webb, who's a great producer and he's a friend. And I met with him and I brought Hold These Walls to him. And then I brought a bunch of old songs that I had written through the years, and we just kind of went through the list. And it's amazing though. We chose about 10 or 12, but probably only 4 out of those 10 or 12 actually made the project. And while we started working on the album, I began to write. And it was like fresh wind and fresh fire. It just started creativity and something I wanted to say. And so a lot of the songs on this album have a whole lot to do with what we've all been through over the past few years
Yeah.
with COVID. And I just really wanted to speak directly to that, to the hopelessness of a lot of that feeling, and that there is hope and there's no need to be fearful and that we can trust.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. I was listening to it again yesterday, and I was struck by that kind of that theme of hope, that you got in there, and it's just really great. I definitely encourage everybody to go listen to it. It's just a digital release. Am I correct in that?
Yes, I do have. I mean, if they contact me on my website, buddymullins.com, I had created pre-releases, CDs, and so I have them. I don't, and I carry them out with the Booth Brothers. They sit on the table at the Booth Brother concerts, but we don't really push it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mainly an online presence. I'm working right now on possibly doing more video
Okay. Yeah.
with the other songs.
Awesome. All right, so this record is with StowTown Records. Is that and I know you probably know those guys really well.
Yeah.
And so they're doing some great work there. I was glad to see it landed in some kind of distribution so you can get that music out there. Now there is one track on there that I definitely want to talk about, because I think maybe fans of the Booth Brothers might be a little shocked when they start listening and they get to a certain track, and there's a little bit of a flow coming from you, a little bit of a rap bridge going on in there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I love that song. When I wrote it, it was just, I was so frustrated with all that the enemy's trying to do in our society. And we got to remember who the true enemy is.
Yeah.
It's not each other. It's
Right.
it's not the differences in our ethnicity. It's none of this. It is, we got to focus on who the real killer is. And so that's what the song came. And with that, I got to a bridge, and the only thing that worked with the kind of feel and passion that I wanted to get across was a rap. And I don't rap, and I'm like, but it just wouldn't be right for the song.
Yeah.
Any other thing for me wouldn't have been right. It needed something just to drive a message home. And just so happens my daughter is married to a wonderful gentleman who, that's what he does. And I got together with him, and I let him hear what it is. And then, man, he went and got alone and just wrote it out and then spoke it on the project. And what's been really interesting is a lot of my peers, my friends in the genre of music that we're in with the Booth Brothers, a lot of them have actually said to me, "Buddy, I don't normally gravitate towards that, but it works right. It's the right fit for what that is, It doesn't take me out of the song. It actually, drives the message more home." And so I had never done that before, and don't be looking for me. If you come see me live, I will not be rapping. I don't know how to do that. But I was glad that he did.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was one of those things that, like, it was unexpected, but I mean, I was already diving the song, right? Killer's already a killer track as it is, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that pops in. I was like, this really works. This is great, But I mean, the record isn't what a traditional Southern gospel fan is expected anyway, so it works in that context. It's a great inspirational pop record, and you did great on it. And so was Jason the producer on it, or was it you?
The whole
Jason?
thing, man.
Okay.
Chris, he wasn't just the producer, man. He got in there with me and really just helped me create all the feels that we wanted to have, and yet also be able to keep it kind of rounded off so that I didn't go too far out here or too far out there. That's the beautiful thing about Jason. Man, I can't say enough about working with Jason Webb. And it just turned out, and then all the musicians and everything. I'm very thankful for this project. It really is my heart. I mean, it's what I want to say to people. It's the encouragement I want to give, and it's the passion I want them to take. I want them to live life not fearless, man. We're overcomers. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but power and love and a sound mind. And we need to hold on to that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer, buddy. I do want you to share a little bit about how people um, can get involved in your ministry, how they can find out more information about it. Because I mean, obviously, this is a huge part, not just for you, but this is something that the world needs. And so, just share a little bit about that. Let them know how they can get involved with that.
Of course, Carrie and I are so grateful. That's my wife, Carrie. And we're so grateful that we've had the privilege to walk in the footsteps of my parents and work with Hope for the World Foundation. You can find out all you want, Chris, at hftw.org. That's our call letters for our ministry. Of course, you can go to buddymullins.com and you can get to that portal also through buddymullins.com. All of the music that I do, everything I record, and everything we put out, all monies and proceeds go back to Hope for the World. We work with orphans in the country of Albania. We've been doing that now, our family, for 30 years. And we've touched over 11,000 orphans' lives in that time. We have our own teen center in the country of Albania. We're presently working in 6 different government orphanages at the present time, along with our own teen center. We also have a work with the gypsy community there with feeding centers in a few places. We do a really large ministry to the widows across the entire country as well. And so it's something that, man, I just love the Lord because he's so patient with us. All my life, I've been so focused on music, and those years when he grabbed a hold of me and said, "Hey, I want you to lay that down," it took me a while, Chris, to get there. But when I finally did, I understood that what God was trying to do was say, "Buddy, I want to bring greater purpose to your life." And he does that. When we focus on others, it's amazing what that does for us. If we'll focus on helping others, bringing hope to others, and that's what we do. hftw.org is everything you want to know about what we're doing. Carrie and I lead mission trips over, short-term trips, and take people over to see the work. And then we represent it here in the States. We use music. I love to come into churches and present and do it through music and through video and all of that in testimony.
Wow, that's great. That's really great. And thank you again, buddy, for your time. And I will definitely be checking out Hope for the World, and I hope other people do as well. And of course, people can check out the solo record online. It's on all the streaming services. They can go that way. Of course, if they want a physical copy, buddymullins.com. And of course, they can also see you with the Booth Brothers, which of course you're doing great work with the Booth Brothers as well.
Oh, I'm loving it, man.
Yeah, and of course, congrats to the Booth Brothers, who just won an Absolutely Gospel Music Award this past April.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think that, I'll be honest with you, Chris, first award I've ever won.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'm in the Hall of Fame, in the GMA Hall of Fame.
Right.
But that's an appointed thing.
Right.
And,
right.
And so I've never won an award, so.
Well, there you go.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Pete Jesus won Progressive Recording of the Year, and Jim was on hand to accept. You were in Israel, so you couldn't be here. So yeah, so we of course are excited about that. And in the meantime, people can catch you online. They can catch you in solo concert, in with the Booth Brothers. And thank you again, buddy. Of course, like I said, I've been a lifelong fan and have always. I remember every day Driven came to our fan festival. One year, and I got to meet you first time then. And my brother, who of course has passed on, he was there gushing over you too, because he was a huge Gates Vocal Band fan. And so yes, and so I have been appreciative of you ever since, and at least can call you friend. So I'm glad to know you, buddy, and thank you for your time. And we will see you.
This has been a blessing. Thanks.
Absolutely, we will see you on the road. See you then. Thanks, Absolutely Gospel fans.
Bye.